Welcome again to Training Tuesday. It is Tuesday night. It is 6 o'clock East Coast time, and you are here with me, and we are here to talk about cliques. Cliques in the work environment. I wanted to talk about cliques because as we've discussed, right, we've got this series going on now on obstacles, the glass obstacle course at the office. And when it comes to obstacles in the workplace, there are lots of them. And some of them are very real, very tangible obstacles that we come up against, like cliques in the office place. And some of them are more mindset obstacles, right? The way that we perceive things, the way that we see things or interpret things. And in this group, we tackle both, right? We tackle both the very real obstacles that are in front of us in our career path, and we tackle the mindset obstacles that hold us back. And when I say mindset obstacles, I think I'm talking about things like the imposter syndrome, limiting beliefs, right? The little voice in the back of our head that tells us we can't or we shouldn't, or it's not possible or it's not realistic. So today's topic on cliques and how do we navigate kind of the office politics of cliques, that's a tangible one. That's a very real obstacle that is in front of us oftentimes in the office place. And the statistic I saw that got me really thinking about cliques was the one that said 43% of workers say that there's some sort of clique in their office or their work environment. And I thought, that seems low. It seems low to me. Like, I know because I've worked at them that there are companies that do not suffer from a lot of cliques or even any kind of clique sort of environment. But I also know a lot of them do. And so 43% seemed a little low to me, but maybe that's just my experience. The survey, which was done, I think 2021, so just this past year, it was pretty recent, basically says that even today, even in today's Zoom culture, we're still experiencing the impacts of cliques. So I want you to think about that. The fact that these groups have enough power to influence us, even over Zoom meetings, right? Even when we're doing all of our business over email and phone calls and video like this, rather than in a physical office, it can still have an impact. So we can talk a little bit about that as well. So I know that I shared in one of the promos for this that, an incident that happened, that was, I think, 7th grade, that Christine took my shoe. And honestly, it was a pretty traumatic experience for me at the time. I was still the new kid in school. The truth is, though, we still have cliques kind of in adulthood. And the reason why I use the example of 7th grade is because I think we all experience that kind of feeling at some point between middle school and high school. It's an unfortunate impact of growing up. Maybe less so in the work environment, but I know that in the work environment, for example, when I was maybe 6 or 7 years into my career, I was still working my way up. Wasn't quite. I was in sort of a management position. I had a team working for me, but I wasn't a senior manager or senior leader. Sort of mid-level. And I'd worked for this company. It was the first really big company I had worked for. I was only on board for a couple of months, and we were going to this trade show in Las Vegas. And it was huge. It was like 30, 40,000 people were attending this trade show. We were sending like a contingent of, I don't know, 40 or 50 people to go work the show. I'd never been part of an enterprise that large, right? In my past, it was, which 4 people get to go kind of thing. So this was a big deal. So I went, and they booked us in rooms together, right? We had to share rooms, and I got booked in a room. I didn't have a choice of who my roommate was. They just assigned us, and I got booked in a room with a woman who was involved in one of these office cliques. And again, being new at the job, I was just new to the cliques. Like, I knew she was kind of in one. I figured it was kind of a clique, but I was still new and just feeling my way around. At this event, she was very nice to me when we were in the room together, which truthfully wasn't often, and usually one or both of us was asleep. She was perfectly pleasant. But outside of it, I was at this trade show with 40 or so of my coworkers, and I was new, and I felt completely ostracized. Here I was new. This environment was huge. I'd never been to Vegas before, so that was new. Never been to Vegas, never been to a trade show this large. Didn't know what we were doing or how the mechanics of this worked. It was a real eye opener. And all the things that go with a Vegas trade show, which is people going to dinners with vendors and with clients and having coffees and coordinated team breakfasts and things like that, I was excluded from. Wasn't invited, wasn't told about it, would find out after the fact. Somebody else would say, oh, hey, you weren't at that dinner. I didn't know about the dinner. So here I was at this huge event for our company, feeling very much an outsider because here I had a roommate who was part of the in crowd and knew everything, but didn't share anything with me. And I couldn't figure out, why doesn't she like me? Why isn't she sharing this? I just wasn't part of the crowd. And it took several months. I was probably at that job at least another 6 months or so. And over that period of time, I became friends with the guy across the cube from me. We were in a big old cube farm. He was part of the in crowd. And only when he and I became friends did I get a little bit of entree into the in crowd. And that entree, suddenly, I had access to information and things that I didn't have before. I was just like, wait a minute. I could have been doing my job so much better if I had known about these things that this little clique group was keeping to themselves. They were essentially hoarding information, and I didn't even realize it. So that was one of the impacts of a clique. And while it was beneficial for me to finally realize there was an in and that I could get in and get that information, the truth was I shouldn't have had to. I shouldn't have had to become part of some sort of insider club in my own company in order to do my job. It doesn't benefit the company. It didn't benefit me. But this is one of the impacts that cliques have, right? It impacts how we feel about ourselves, how we feel about our jobs, and it can impact how we do our jobs. And I want to dig more into that. So we're going to talk about cliques in some detail. Before I do, I want to start with hello and welcome. My name is Natalie Hahn. I am your coach and CEO of Dirty Girls Consulting, and I'm happy to have you here tonight. If you have been here before, then you know the deal, which is say hello in the chat, tell us where you're from, ask questions, share comments. The more interactive we make this, the more fun it is. If you are new here, welcome to Training Tuesday. I'm here every Tuesday night. We have a different topic each week. And right now we are in the middle of our obstacle course at the office series talking about office politics. Hey, Miss Jackie, it's good to see you. So what is a clique? A clique, now a clique by definition, right? By the dictionary definition, is a group of people who are connected by a shared interest who make it hard for others to join their group. And that's kind of the key piece, right? That it's hard for others to join the group because that's where exclusion comes in, right? This sense that we're not part of the cool kids, that we're the outsiders. So when it's difficult to, so there's one thing about having groups, right? It's one thing to have groups and communities at the office because people have a shared interest in a particular hobby or because they worked together before, right? And things like that. I've worked at several companies where I've worked before with several other people at the company. So then we're a group, right? We gravitate towards each other. What makes a group a clique is the exclusivity piece. It's that part where it's hard for others to break in, to socialize with you, to communicate with you, to feel like they're part of it. It's a fan club for just the fans. And oftentimes, cliques are the root of where bullies come from, right? If there's bullying at the office, it generally starts somewhere with the leader of a clique. Now, some of the things to look for to determine kind of, is this just a friendly group of people at the office who happen to have something in common? Or is this actually a clique environment, is to look at how much are others excluded, like literally not allowed at the lunch table kind of thing, right? How much are others excluded from joining or made to feel unwelcome? How much are they gossiping, or is there gossip about other employees? So that they're creating this environment of an us versus them. How much do they expect you or expect others to conform to their opinions, to their ideas in order to get things done or to move forward? Are they spreading rumors, right? Are they creating drama? Are they making stories happen? Are they engaging in bullying? Are they creating an atmosphere where it's difficult for people to speak up for themselves or feel like that they're getting condescended to or pushed into a corner? Right? So all of these are some signs that this isn't just a group of people who get to know each other and hang out both at work and outside of work. And that's the other piece. They tend to hang out in both places, at work as well as outside of it. But they are coalescing around each other and they're creating an atmosphere that makes it hard for other people. Now, it's important for us to understand why cliques form. Not so much to give them an excuse, because it's not good behavior, but just so that you understand the motivation behind it. It gives you insight into maybe how to work with the people in the clique or how to work with the clique as a whole. Oftentimes, the root of cliques is insecurity. And the insecurity could be at an individual level or it can be at a group or a business level. And what I mean by that is if somebody individually is very insecure about their job, about their position, about their skill set, they may, from a political perspective, right, we're talking office politics, surround themselves with people who are a little bit like their yes men, kind of their defense committee, that helps them feel better about themselves and provides a protective layer between them and their roles, right? And between them and other people in the company. So this little protective pod is created because they're insecure about their role. So they're creating other people as their defense mechanism for how they navigate this work environment. That's when an individual, right, a strong personality individual comes along and is creating a clique. Cliques can also form when the company environment actually supports it. And it might support it because there's instability going on at the business, right? If you've ever been at a company that's been struggling, oftentimes cliques form in groups out of self-protection. I'm over here, I'm protecting what I do, I'm showcasing what I do so that I'm not the one in the next round of layoffs. We're not going to be the team caught up in those cuts. Right? That cliques can form along those lines as well. Cliques can also form when it's culture from the top. Company culture always comes from the top and it dribbles down. If you have a leadership team, right? A leadership team that has bullies, that has insecure people on it, they often from the top can create their own cliques. And then that just fosters more kind of as you go down the food chain. So that's definitely something to look out to. It's a group that bonds together and there's some sense of instability and self-preservation that's going on at the time. So the question for you guys is, do you have clique problems at work? What's your experience with cliques? Because the experience with cliques has a couple of different outcomes, and honestly none of them are really great. So none of them are good. They're not healthy for the business, they're not healthy for the individuals, right? First and foremost, impact to morale. I'm going to go through a couple. If you guys think of any that I've missed, I'd love for you to drop in the chat. What's your experience been with cliques at work, or what's the impact been? So the ones that I have come up with are impact to morale. Right? First thing that happens when there's a clique is we as an individual feel excluded. Feel like I'm not part of it. Why aren't they sharing with me? Why can't I be part of this, right? There must be something wrong with me. So my morale is impacted and I don't feel like I'm part of it. I'm not feeling connected with my job. I'm not feeling connected with the organization. Jackie says, feeling like you can't talk to people who are peers with your boss. Yeah. Exactly. You feel limited and constrained about who you can talk to. Because if you're not part of the in crowd, then you don't necessarily feel like you have access to the channels or the communication channels that you should have in order for you to navigate your career or even do your job well. So that gets into also productivity, Jackie. That was something else that I came up with, right? Productivity, feeling isolated so that you're not able to do your job as well, feeling bullied. It could be that um, people are withholding information from you, which is what was happening with me, and I just didn't know it. But it impacted my productivity because I suddenly saw all the other things I could have been doing or that I should have known that I didn't because I wasn't part of that group. So it impacts productivity. Workplace bullying often starts with with cliques, right? When they pick on somebody, they find somebody to pick on. The idea kind of behind that being that if this person is always in that lower order position, then I'm safe, right? When we are bullying somebody, we're trying to put them in a position that helps us feel stronger and feel safe. The other thing that happens when there are cliques is that you really limit the perspectives. You really limit the options that you or your team or the group can use in order to problem solve or to be creative and move things forward because cliques are about conformity. They're about maintaining comfort, maintaining stability in their world, in whatever that clique's particular world is. So when you're focused on comfort and stability and control, you have a pretty narrow view. You have a pretty closed mind regarding what can I go do and what are the options. So they're only going to be open to ideas that actually come from their group, that come from their kind of people, right? So it's very limiting perspectives. So those were the four major impacts I saw when it came to cliques. Um, and I think Jackie's right. And there's actually maybe in addition to productivity and impact to morale, Jackie, you're really talking about a sense of isolation too, right? Really feeling alone, um, outside of the loop and alone and unsupported in this kind of environment. So that's an excellent point. So I'm going to go through what some of my suggestions are for dealing with cliques. And I want to look at it two ways. I want to look at it from the perspective of if you're a team member facing a clique, right? Someone peer to peer, below or above you. And also if you're a manager and you have a team or members of your team who are part of a clique. So jump in as I walk through this. If you have recommendations and ideas for either how you've dealt with cliques or ideas that you have for dealing with them that I don't mention, by all means, share them in the chat. Would love to hear other perspectives on how to deal with this, because this isn't a singular issue of there's one way to solve this problem. Because the truth is, there's insecurity in human nature that forms these cliques. And that's not going away. We are human beings. There are going to be some of us, all of us, who have pools of insecurity, and how much those come up and impact our work and whether we form cliques or not. That's always going to be an obstacle in our office environment that's there. So it really is a matter of how do we navigate it. First recommendation, and actually I did some research just looking at what other workplace experts and coaches and things said, and the very first thing all of them said was avoid them. Just avoid the cliques altogether if you can. Some office environments are small enough where it's hard to avoid them. Sometimes the cliques are like right in your group or right in your path, so I get that. So the key, if you can avoid them, avoid them. The thing with cliques is they are not often the highest performers. They're not often your top best people at work. And they're not, because your top best people at work don't often need to have a clique to be successful. So like I said, it's one thing if it's a culture thing, but if we're talking about you looking at your peers, look at the clique members and try to figure out how intimidating are they really? What is their actual sphere of influence? Sometimes when we're intimidated by a clique or by a bully, right, by an individual, but we're talking tonight about cliques, it's because something in their behavior sends us right back to the seventh grade, right? When I meet somebody, especially another woman who's a bully, I honestly go right back to seventh grade me and Christine throwing my shoe around and dangling it over the trash can so that I couldn't get it. That's where I go emotionally, of embarrassed, of feeling helpless, of feeling picked on because I'm the new girl, right? All of those emotions come back. It doesn't matter how old we are. Those emotions are still in there, right? It doesn't matter how much we've worked on them. That stuff can still come up. So part of what you want to decipher is, with this clique, how influential are they really? How much are they truly a high performer in a company? Because then I want to know, how much do I care about their influence or about how they impact my job? And then the next piece is, do they have something real that intimidates me? This clique member is my boss, therefore I'm concerned about my job stability. Versus, this clique member doesn't actually have a ton of influence or impact on my job, but boy, do they send me right back to the seventh grade. Being able to tease that out will help you figure out how you want to react and respond to this person. Because if they're just sending you right back to the seventh grade, but they don't have significant impact on your career, done with them. Put them in their place. They're a seventh grade bully. If it's your boss, different plan of action. We'll talk about that. Here's the deal. Regardless of the bullies, regardless of the clique members, your job is to show up at work every day as your best possible you, right? As the leader that you want to be. So we treat everybody with professionalism, with respect, with courtesy, regardless of whether they're in the clique or not, regardless of their behavior towards us. Our role to stay in line with our integrity as a leader in our business. And I don't mean a leader because you have the right title or you have the right position in the org structure. I mean a leader of yourself. You are a leader of how you show up. You are your own CEO. As your own CEO, who do you want to be? Who do you want to be? So your job is to not interact except in a professional way, to not engage in gossip, not gossip about the clique, not gossip with the clique. That just pulls you into their drama. Your job is to find connections outside of the clique, right? To engage with people outside of it and try to create other groups and a broader network to support you, for your moral support, for your social support. And if you're going to engage with clique members, you're going to be more successful on an individual basis, right? We sometimes have a herd mentality of how we behave when we're in the clique and surrounded by our clique members. That's different than when we're just one-on-one. And it could be some of those clique members feel like that clique membership is part of their work survival, which is why they behave that way. But one-on-one, you might find a different person. And what you're trying to do is build your own support network. So maybe in your modeling of behavior, you show them that there's a different way. But first and foremost, right? How influential are they really? And how are they triggering you? Your job is to act with professionalism and courtesy. Your job is to not engage in the gossip about them or with them, to find your own network and your own connections that are going to offer you the support that you need. If you are tempted to join the clique, if you're looking at it, if you're on the fringe of it, I want you to ask yourself why. Why part of this clique? And what does that do? What is that impact on your career? It might help you move forward with this job. That might be a benefit. Is it in alignment with who you are and who you want to be as a leader? And again, doesn't matter what your title is, doesn't matter what your position is, you're leading your life and your career. Let me put it this way. Your life and your career, what you do with it, is all based on the decisions you make as the CEO of your life. So the choices you make, who you engage with, who you network with, the roles that you take, the people you let into your inner circle, all of those things impact what actually unravels in your career and what unravels in your life. All based on your choices. So when you're looking at a clique, it's your choice whether you get involved or not. Are they aligned with your values or not? Are they aligned with how you want to show up as a leader? Because whatever choice you make and whoever you do let in to your work inner circle, to your personal inner circle, it's all about being in alignment with you and your goals and your values. Now, if you are leading a team, and I'm curious if any of you either lead a team that is a clique or has clique members on it, would love to hear what that experience is like for you and how you're managing that. Because if you're a leader of a team, regardless of whether it's a clique or not, if you're a leader of a team, your job is to create an environment of trust, of safety, of collaboration, of understanding and support, right? This is how we build great teams. Great teams work together when there's trust and confidence that they can rely on each other. Now, it's taken to the next level when your team becomes a clique because they don't let anybody else in, right? They're exclusive. So as a leader, what's your job? If you've inherited a team and they're a clique, or you have members of your team who are part of a clique, your job as the leader is to model your expectations. It's to have an open dialogue. What are my expectations for my team? What are the expectations for this role? It's to have that open conversation with the team as a whole and each team member of, this is what I expect from you. This is what I want from you. This is what's required of you to do the job. Now, in order to have that conversation, right, in order to instill the trust and set your expectations, you have to be willing to have the hard conversation. And in having the hard conversation, you have to be willing to listen. So step 1 is set your expectations, but step 2 is be willing to listen. And Kelly, no cliques, but we do have a pot stirrer or two. Yeah, we talked about problem children last week, kind of those individual contributors who create drama and create a mess. And often they're part of a clique. So this is all related. You're absolutely right about that. And I can send you the problem child training if you'd like to take a listen to that, of how we deal with the individual who's creating distraction and disruption at work. So point 1 was set expectations of how you actually expect your team to behave. 2 is be willing to listen. Now, in the willing to listen, it means you have to hear what they say. You don't have to agree with it, but your role is to not be defensive, right? You're not here to defend your values and defend your expectations. You are here to listen to them. You are here to respect that they have a voice and potentially a different point of view. If they're making a case for something that you don't agree with, you can listen. But then your role as leader is still to model what you expect and what you want done. And the key is modeling not just your expectations, but point 3, it's practicing your values. So set your expectations, listen to your team and their feedback. It may alter some things about either how you perceive things or what you choose to do. But 3 is practice your core values. Your core values should be how you want to show up as a leader, right? Your core values should be all wrapped around your sense of integrity and how you want to lead. Separate from that, your company may have values. And the company values may also be something you want to pull into your model. Now, if you're going to lead with company values, here's my caveat. If you're going to lead with company values, if you're going to tell your team, these are our company values, we live by these, then you better show them how to live by them. So, for example, if your company has a value of community support and community service, right? Oftentimes in one of the 5 core values, it's we support our communities, we help our communities. Awesome. But do you? As a leader, then, your job would be to figure out when is that day or half day of community support and what are we going to do? And offering the opportunity for your team then to participate in a soup kitchen with you, Habitat for Humanity with you, right? Whatever the community support effort is, ensuring that your team has the opportunity to get involved and live those values and you model them. And one company I worked at, we had a value of, encouraging innovation. What does that mean? Right? And we fumbled around with that for like a year before we said, look, if we're going to encourage innovation, we have to actively encourage innovation. And we finally set up an innovation pod. We actually finally set up it was a pod, I guess we call it a task force, around how do we collect and foster innovative ideas. And this group ended up putting together an annual innovation, the name is slipping me now. It's like these marathons that they do, right? Of getting everybody in a room and working on an innovation project, right? And having teams working on the different innovation projects and seeing what we came out with at the end of 24 hours. And it ended up being a ton of fun. But it took us a while to figure out how do we take this value of being an innovative company and translate it into something where our teams can actually live it. Your job as a leader is to model it. Now, why am I talking about values and things like this? Because these kind of broader community efforts, broader values, right? We just took innovation and made it a whole company-wide value. This is what breaks down cliques because it gives a broader community things to participate in and be excited about. And if you don't practice your company values, or you don't practice your personal values that you're modeling and bringing to the table, if you don't model those, then we're not building trust. We're not building that sense of security and stability in our team. Now, 4, that was 3 values. 4, recognizing each team member. We have a tendency, we do this as parents too, by the way. We focus on either high achiever, problem children. We're busy encouraging the high achievers. We're busy trying to manage our problem children. And there's a whole team in between who's just doing their job. And they're probably doing a pretty good job, but we don't always see them. So part of leveling the playing field, diffusing any sort of resentment or feeling of insecurity that can foster cliques or can foster problem children, is recognizing everybody for what they contribute, including the people who maybe on your team don't necessarily get the kudos because they're not the rock star, or they're not doing high visibility work, or they're not constantly creating drama. The people who actually allow stuff to get done day to day, creating a program, creating moments and activities where they get recognition for their role. And finally, if you're a leader who's trying to diffuse, right, the impact of cliques and break up the cliques, create opportunities for broader engagement. Don't make them mandatory, but create the opportunities for people to voluntarily join. And so maybe if you're in the office, it's lunch, right? It's a group lunch where the whole team is invited, or it's a happy hour after hours. If you're on Zoom, maybe it's a virtual lunch or a virtual happy hour, right? Maybe it's a virtual activity where you're doing a cooking class together, but foster opportunities for the team to get to know each other and connect with each other where everyone's included, but also where the team can self-select out. And that option of choice is important because sometimes when we're forcing people into team activities, they resent it even more. And now you've given them more fodder for their clique conversations. What we want to do is create an environment that attracts people and makes them want to join and be part of the bigger collective. Regardless of your role, whether you're a team player, whether you're an individual contributor, whether you're a manager, when we're involved in cliques, there are some things to keep in mind. Whether we're navigating around them or we're part of them, we're in a place of work. Professionalism and courtesy are the name of the game. This is a workplace. We are hired to do a job. That's the main thing. So practicing courtesy and professionalism with our colleagues is rule number 1. If you want to develop deeper relationships, look for the opportunities to do that, but do so with the clique members and the non-clique members. Everybody has something to contribute. Keep in mind that you are empowered to be a leader, even if you're not part of the clique. They don't own your personal power. So if you are being impacted at work by a clique, that they're blocking you from your ability to do your job, or they're impacting your self-esteem because you're feeling ostracized, so the first thing is to take care of you. First thing always is to take care of you. And you can be an impactful leader and a power player at work without being part of their group. But taking care of you means figuring out how you address this so that you can be that power player. You might need to consider a conversation with your boss. You might need to consider a conversation with HR. Now, if your boss or management is part of the clique, whole other issue. You're talking about a larger cultural issue. When it's a larger cultural issue, the choice you really have to make is, do you want to be there? Is this an environment in which you as a leader and your career can thrive? Because it's very hard. Like I said, culture comes from the top and dribbles down. It's very hard to change it if it's coming from the top. If it's more of a peer issue, or it's coming from upper level of management but not senior management, you may have an opportunity here to create a culture shift. So that's when you can go to your boss or your boss's boss. You could also potentially go to HR. If you're going to take that route, the same guidelines apply here as apply to our problem child, right? If we're going to take the route of going to HR or some sort of senior management executive level with this concern, we need to focus on the behavior, not the people, right? We don't want to turn the clique into a bad personality contest. What we want to focus on is how their behaviors are impacting work. So you're going to focus on how the behavior of this clique as a whole, or individuals in the clique, how their actions are blocking you from getting information, are preventing you from moving forward on a project, right? How they're actually stopping you from doing your job. If the impact is more on morale, then you want to have specific examples for how the way they spoke to me in front of that client undermined my authority. The way they spoke to me in front of my team undercut what we were trying to get accomplished. Or it was simply unprofessional. It was rude. Those are very valid workplace complaints. We're not saying Joe was a jerk. We're saying the way Joe behaved undermined our ability to get our job done. So we're keeping it focused on behavior and on what it's blocking, which is our ability to be productive at work. You can also talk about how their behaviors are a distraction, right? If they're stirring up drama over here, and now this team is distracted by the drama of that team, and now we're not making any progress on the project, that needs to be brought up. Excuse me. That should be mentioned because that's impacting productivity. The key is to frame it so that you're focused on the behaviors and the business impacts, not on so-and-so's mean, so-and-so's picking on me. That may be the outcomes of what they're doing, some of the outcomes of what they're doing, but for work, for a business organization to be able to manage it, they want to see the direct connection on employee retention. I'm going to quit because they've made this a hostile work environment. On morale, right? Me and my team aren't able to get things done because, quite frankly, this place sucks. I mean, all of these things can happen. So, hey, Sue. Sue, you live this stuff. Sue, I know that you live a lot of this stuff. I don't mean the bad work environment. I mean, you understand this whole process, right? Of walking through how do we focus our energy to get difficult, complicated, emotional things handled in a way that is constructive and for the business. Because I've had in my office, I've had clients who have faced the thing where literally they're crying because somebody at work literally made them cry. And that's not right. That is not right or acceptable at any level. But it can be easy for some layers of management who are less tuned in, less sensitive, or very protective to simply say, you're overreacting, you're getting emotional, take some time off, right? They brush it off. When you can tie the fact that not only is this guy a jerk, but, or women can be just as bullies, but they're impacting my ability to get the job done. Now we have a business problem. Me being upset because so-and-so called me a name is not a business problem. My inability to focus on my job because somebody is causing me stress, that's a business problem. So it's all in how we frame it. If we're going to approach management or C-levels or HR with this, is we want to frame it in the way that they can actually do something about it. All right. Deep breath. That is really, we're over time. So that's all I have time for tonight. But that's really, those are the notes that I made around managing and navigating cliques. Would love to hear your comments and feedback on how you've been managing cliques, what you've been facing. If there's another level here where we need to go deeper or take a different tact on this, happy to have another discussion about it. Office politics, they're so rich in so many scenarios for us to cover. That if you have ideas or you have the issues or things that you're working through, send them to me. Happy to put it on a Training Tuesday. Happy to have a one-on-one conversation. So I'm going to end this by saying if you are dealing with any of these issues at work, or if you'd just like to have a one-on-one conversation about where you're going in your career and what's next, I'm going to invite you to drop the word dig in the comments. And what I'm inviting you to is what I call the Dirty Girl Mini Dig. It's a 15-minute conversation. It's a short coaching call. But the focus of the coaching call is to help you get to a next step. It's a decision, it's an action, but it's a next step that gets you more clarity around where you're going or gets you that one step closer to your goal. So I call it the Dirty Girl Mini Dig. It's a free coaching session. It's a sales free zone. I'm not selling you anything. We are there to talk about you, your challenge, and how we get you moving forward with that. So just drop the word dig in, and I will reach out to you probably over Facebook Messenger, and we'll schedule a time to have that conversation. Thank you, ladies, for joining me tonight. As always, I love spending my Tuesdays with you, and look forward to hearing comments and feedback about cliques and how you're dealing with them. Have a great night.